I'm Neo, and tonight, I'm going to take you on a journey, not a terrible one, but a peaceful meditation through one of history's most profound moments. Close your eyes now, let your breathing slow, and drift with me back through time to August 24th, 79 AD, to a beautiful Roman city on the Bay of Naples. There is no fear here, only wonder, only the quiet observation of a day that would become eternal. Let yourself relax completely as we walk together through the streets of Pompeii, experiencing the final hours of a world frozen in time. You awaken in Pompeii as the first light of dawn touches the red-tiled roofs of the city. The air is warm already, carrying the scent of the sea mixed with freshly baked bread from the thermopolia, the fast food shops that line the streets. The temperature hovers around 22 degrees Celsius, perfect for the late summer morning in Campania, this fertile region, blessed by volcanic soil that makes everything grow in abundance. Pompeii is home to approximately 12,000 souls. The city sprawls across 66 hectares, enclosed by ancient walls built centuries ago. You stand on a balcony overlooking the Via dell'Abbondanza, one of the main thoroughfares. The street is lined with shops and homes, their facades decorated with election slogans painted in red letters, advertisements for gladiatorial games, declarations of love, the graffiti of a living city. Mount Vesuvius rises to the north, its cone perfectly symmetrical against the lightening sky, approximately 9 kilometers distant. The mountain appears peaceful, covered in vegetation, vineyards climbing its slopes, producing wine famous throughout the Roman world. To the people of Pompeii, Vesuvius is simply part of the landscape, as permanent and unchanging as the sea. But you notice something others might miss: a thin wisp of smoke rising from the summit, barely visible in the dawn light. You descend into the House of the Faun, one of the largest and most elegant homes in Pompeii. The famous bronze statue of the dancing faun stands in the impluvium, catching the morning light. The walls are decorated with frescoes, creating illusions of depth, of windows opening onto gardens that don't exist. One panel shows the Battle of Issus, a mosaic made from more than 1.5 million tiny pieces, each carefully placed to create an image of startling realism. You step out into the street as the city begins to wake. Shopkeepers are opening their shutters. The thermopolium across the street is already doing business, its counter embedded with large clay jars containing the food of the day: lentils cooked with pork, chickpeas and herb sauce, a stew of fish and vegetables. The smell of baking bread draws you down the street to one of Pompeii's many bakeries, where large millstones turned by donkeys grind wheat into flour. The sounds of the city build around you like a symphony: the ring of hammer on anvil from metalworkers' shops, the rhythmic thud of fullers trampling cloth in vats, the chatter of voices in Latin and Oscan and Greek, for Pompeii is a cosmopolitan place where merchants from across the Mediterranean come to trade. You pass the Forum, the heart of Pompeii's civic life, a rectangular space surrounded by colonnades and temples and government buildings. The Temple of Jupiter stands at the north end, its columns imposing against the sky. The Forum is already filling with people: merchants setting up stalls, politicians greeting constituents, lawyers preparing for cases. The earthquake of 62 AD did significant damage here, and reconstruction continues even 17 years later. You wander through the residential districts where most Pompeians live. Through an open doorway, you glimpse a woman at a loom, weaving cloth with practiced movements. Children play in the street, a game involving small bones used as dice, laughing when someone wins or loses. These children have no idea that they are living in the final hours of their city, that their games and ordinary moments of joy are about to be frozen in time. At a public fountain, you overhear a conversation about tremors felt in the night. One woman mentions that her dishes rattled, another says her dog wouldn't stop barking, a third dismisses it as nothing unusual. The earth trembles sometimes, always has, nothing to worry about. They talk about the mountain, how it looked strange yesterday evening, but their conversation drifts quickly to other topics. Time continues, its patient unfolding. The sun reaches its zenith, and the city slows for the midday rest. You find yourself at the Stabian Baths, where all classes come to bathe, to socialize, to relax. The baths are ingeniously designed with a hypocaust system, a raised floor beneath which hot air circulates, heating the rooms above. You move through the sequence of rooms: the tepidarium, the warm room; the caldarium, the hot room; and finally the frigidarium, the cold plunge pool. From the baths, you emerge into the afternoon light. You walk toward the Marine Gate, one of several entrances through Pompeii's ancient walls. From the elevated position, you can see the Bay of Naples sparkling in the afternoon light. Ships move across the water, merchant vessels carrying wine and olive oil. You can see the island of Capri in the distance. The afternoon wears on, and you find yourself in the garden of a wealthy home. This garden is a masterpiece, combining aesthetics with practical production. There are fruit trees, vegetables, flowers, and decorative elements, marble statues, a fountain, painted frescoes showing garden scenes. Sitting in this garden, you feel profound peace. The bird song, the rustle of leaves, the splash of the fountain, the scent of roses. This is a moment of perfect equilibrium. But you hear a sound in the distance, a low rumble. The ground trembles slightly beneath your feet. The homeowner comes into the garden, comments that the mountain must be restless today, suggests making an offering at the temple of Jupiter. He doesn't seem alarmed, merely notices it, and continues about his day. The sun is lowering now, painting everything in golden light. From the triangular forum, an elevated area, you can see Mount Vesuvius more clearly. The smoke rising from the summit is more pronounced now, a column reaching upward, darker than before. Some people are watching it, pointing, discussing whether this is normal or concerning, but most go about their business. As evening falls, you return to the forum, now filled with people taking the evening air, walking and talking and being seen. The temples around the forum are closing for the night. Priests, extinguishing flames, securing offerings. You climb the steps of the Temple of Apollo, and from this elevation, you can see the smoke from Vesuvius rising into the sky, darker now, more ominous. The vibrations have been increasing throughout the afternoon. Dogs are barking more than usual. Birds have been flying in strange patterns. Animals often sense disasters before they occur, responding to changes humans cannot detect. You walk through the evening streets, where oil lamps are being lit in shops and homes. The smell of cooking food fills the air. In one home, you hear music, the melancholy notes of a flute. You pass a tavern where men are drinking wine, arguing about politics and philosophy. The night deepens, and a strange stillness settles over Pompeii. The air feels heavy, charged with energy. You find yourself at the city walls, looking out over the countryside. Beyond the farms, you can barely make out the shape of Vesuvius, its summit obscured by smoke. Beneath the mountain, 20 kilometers down, in the magma chamber that has been filling for centuries, the mixture of molten rock and dissolved gases is reaching critical pressure. The rock above is beginning to fracture, unable to contain the pressure any longer. The entire system is approaching criticality, balanced on the edge of transformation. The night is at its deepest now, the hours between midnight and dawn. In the houses of Pompeii, people sleep peacefully, trusting that the world will remain safe through the night, that they will wake in the morning to continue their lives. This trust is so fundamental that no one questions it. In the darkness before dawn, approximately 1 hour before sunrise on August 25, 79 AD, the eruption begins. The sound is beyond description, a roar that can be heard hundreds of kilometers away. A column of pulverized rock and gas, heated to hundreds of degrees, is shot upward by explosive decompression, rising at velocities exceeding the speed of sound, reaching altitudes of 20 to 30 kilometers, mushrooming outward at the top. The people of Pompeii are waking now, roused by the noise, by the vibrations shaking their houses. They emerge into the streets in confusion and fear, looking toward Vesuvius, seeing the monstrous column rising into the sky, seeing lightning flash within the dark cloud, hearing the continuous roar. Some people immediately understand that they need to flee. They gather their families, grab what valuables they can carry, and start running toward the gates. Others hesitate, uncertain what to do, hoping the eruption will stop. And some stay in their homes, seeking shelter from what they cannot understand. The eruption column continues to rise, now fully visible in the first light of dawn. The column is composed of pumice and ash and gas, toxic and burning. This material begins to fall back to earth, raining down on the city like gray snow. The fall begins gradually, small fragments at first, but the intensity increases rapidly. Within an hour, the pumice is several centimeters deep in Pompeii. Within 2 hours, it is 20 centimeters deep. The weight begins to stress the buildings. Some roofs begin to sag, to crack, to collapse. The people face an impossible choice: stay inside where they risk being crushed, or venture outside where they will be pelted by falling pumice. You follow one family as they attempt to escape. A father carries the youngest child while the mother holds the hands of 2 older children. They move through streets filled with chaos, heading toward the gate. The pumice continues to fall, coating everything in gray powder, getting into eyes and mouths and lungs. The family reaches the gate and passes through, joining refugees fleeing the city. But outside the walls, conditions are no better. The road is barely visible, everything covered in uniform gray. They push on, knowing that to stop is to die. But the column above Vesuvius is beginning to change, beginning to collapse. This is the most dangerous phase: pyroclastic flows, avalanches of superheated gas and ash that race down the mountain at speeds exceeding 100 kilometers per hour. The first flow descends toward Herculaneum, engulfing that city, killing everyone instantly. The family you're following has traveled perhaps 2 kilometers from the city, but they are exhausted. They stop to rest in the partial shelter of a tomb beside the road. The father is showing signs of serious respiratory distress, his lungs damaged by ash. They huddle together, gray with ash, barely human in appearance. The pumice continues to accumulate, now over a meter deep in most places. In Pompeii itself, the streets are nearly impassable. People trapped in upper rooms break through walls trying to stay above the rising level. The Forum is now a strange landscape of buried buildings, with only the tops of columns visible. Night falls again, though the darkness is hardly different from the day. The eruption continues without pause. The temperature has dropped. People are cold, shivering, suffering from exposure as well as respiratory distress. The combination is proving fatal to many. More pyroclastic flows descend throughout the night. In the darkness, under the burden of ash and stone, Pompeii is dying. Not all at once, but slowly, person by person, building by building. Some are crushed by collapsing structures, others suffocate, still others die of exposure, of exhaustion, of injuries, of heart attacks. Dawn approaches the morning of August 25th, approximately 18 hours since the eruption began. Pompeii has ceased to exist as a living city. What was a thriving urban center is now a gray wasteland. The pyroclastic flows continue, and now one reaches Pompeii's center. It comes at 100 kilometers per hour, at temperatures exceeding 300 degrees Celsius. Too fast to outrun, too hot to survive. Those few people still alive in Pompeii die now. All at once, in a single, terrible moment. There is no time for fear. Life ceases between one heartbeat and the next. The bodies are buried where they fall, their positions preserved, their final moments frozen in time. The family at the roadside tomb is also killed by this flow. They will be found centuries later. Plaster casts made showing a mother cradling her children, a family that stayed together to the end. The eruption continues for several more hours, but Pompeii is already dead, already buried. Eventually, after nearly 20 hours, the eruption begins to wane. By the evening of August 25th, the worst is over. The landscape is transformed beyond recognition. Vesuvius itself is different. Its cone partly collapsed. The entire region is covered in gray ash. Thousands are dead. Pompeii and Herculaneum and several smaller towns are completely entombed. The survivors return cautiously in the days that follow, searching for their homes, for their families. They find nothing but gray desert. Landmarks obliterated. Some dig desperately, but the depth of burial makes this mostly futile. There is no recovering Pompeii, no rebuilding the buried city. It is gone, gradually forgotten as survivors scatter. And so Pompeii sleeps, buried under volcanic ash, preserved in a way no one intended. The ash that killed also protected, sealing buildings and bodies and artifacts, creating a time capsule that will wait 1,700 years for discovery. You stand now above the buried city. In the silent gray landscape, you feel the weight of what has happened. The transformation of a living city into silence and stone. But you also recognize that this is not the end of the story. That Pompeii will live again, in a different way, will speak to future generations. When excavations begin, in the 1700s, they will find a city frozen in time, more perfectly preserved than any other ancient site. The bread still in ovens, the graffiti on walls, the frescoes bright with color. The bodies in their final poses, all will be revealed. You feel yourself beginning to rise, to pull away from this moment. Time accelerates. You see seasons pass, decades, centuries. You see excavations begin, the world realizing what has been preserved. You see tourists walking the excavated streets, scholars studying every detail. You understand that Pompeii has achieved a strange victory over death, that by being preserved so completely, it has defeated time, that it continues to speak across millennia, continues to teach, continues to remind the living of their mortality and their connection to all humans who have ever lived. You float now above the present-day site, looking down at the excavations, at Vesuvius still looming, still active, still capable of eruption. The mountain reminds us that nature is more powerful than civilization, that we live always on the edge of disaster. But this knowledge need not lead to despair. Instead, it can lead to appreciation, to mindfulness, to the recognition that each moment is precious, precisely because it is impermanent, that life is valuable because it is brief. The people of Pompeii lived fully in their present, not knowing it was their last day, and perhaps that is how all of us should live, not in fear of catastrophe, but in appreciation of what we have. You feel yourself returning, now to your own time, to the present moment. You carry with you the images of Pompeii, the city at dawn, the people going about their ordinary lives, the catastrophe unfolding, the burial and preservation. You feel your breathing, slow and regular, your body at rest, safe and warm and alive. You are here, now, in this moment, and that is enough. The people of Pompeii are gone, but you remain, connected to them through the simple fact of being human. And as you drift toward sleep, you carry a sense of peace, of acceptance, of gratitude for the gift of life, however long or brief it may be. The people of Pompeii had their day, lived their lives. You have your day, your life, your time. Use it well, love deeply, create beauty, be kind. Sleep now, peaceful and complete, knowing that the story continues, that life persists, that you are part of this great continuity, this endless exploration of what it means to be, to experience, to live and die and be remembered. Rest well, dear traveler. Rest well. The last day of Pompeii is complete. Your day continues tomorrow, and that is gift enough. The end. Thank you for walking through the last day of Pompeii. May you sleep deeply, dream peacefully, and wake renewed to the gift of another day.